Let's be real for a second. If you ask almost anyone how AI companies make their money, they'll probably point straight to their own wallets. It's so easy to assume those $20 ChatGPT Plus subscriptions are the real engine of the global AI economy. But, well, they're not. The real story of where the big money flows is massively different, far bigger, and honestly, almost nobody is talking about it. Welcome to NextGen AI Tech. Today, we're busting a major myth. So let's just dive right into this explainer. What you probably expect to be the main revenue driver in 2026 is really just the tip of the iceberg. We are looking at a market that exploded from a couple $100 billion just a few years ago to one that's now projected to hit $3.5 trillion by 2033. And you absolutely do not get to $3.5 trillion just by charging everyday folks $20 a month to help write emails. We're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden infrastructure goldmine that is literally powering this whole technological revolution. Section 1, the obvious part. To kick things off, let's just quickly look at the revenue streams you're probably already super familiar with. $8.5 billion. That is OpenAI's annualized revenue as of June 2026, a completely staggering figure representing a 130% year-over-year surge from their 2025 numbers. And honestly, when you see a massive number like that attached to the creators of ChatGPT, it really does feel like it proves the consumer model is undisputed king, right? But if we break down that $8.5 billion, we see what everyone tends to notice above the surface. There's a hefty 41% slice of the pie coming straight from everyday people paying for ChatGPT Plus. That is roughly $3.5 billion generated from over 20 million paid subscribers. Then you've got another 24% coming from enterprise and team subscriptions. Businesses paying $30 a user for extra security and all those specialized features. So yeah, for OpenAI, the subscription model is clearly their bread and butter. It's been an incredibly successful formula. But let's move on to Section 2, the hidden layer. Because right below the water, there's a massive invisible business-to-business economy operating entirely out of the public eye. The true secret weapon of the AI industry is the API, or Application Programming Interface. Basically, instead of buying a normal subscription, developers use APIs to plug powerful AI models directly into their own software. And they don't pay a flat fee for this. Instead, they're charged microcents per token, which is basically just a fraction of a word for every single prompt generated. For context, a mid-tier model might cost just $3 per million input tokens. I know, it sounds like pennies, but when a platform has millions of users triggering AI actions behind the scenes all day long, those microcents stack up to billions incredibly fast. Combine this with highly lucrative data licensing deals happening behind closed doors, and you've got a massive hidden economy fueling these labs. Think about the math here from the perspective of an AI CEO. To make $1 million a year from consumers, you've got to convince roughly 100,000 individuals to hand over $10 or $20 a month. Plus, you have to constantly market to them just to keep them from canceling. It's exhausting. Or you could sign one single enterprise contract that delivers that exact same $1 million with practically zero churn. One Fortune 500 company using your API literally replaces 100,000 consumer subscribers. That right there is exactly why the biggest AI companies are so fiercely pivoting to target businesses. And you really see this when you look at the sheer scale of the B2B market. Take Anthropic, the team behind Claude. By May 2026, their annualized revenue hit a mind-blowing $47 billion. Actually, let me just repeat that. $47 billion. And they definitely didn't do it by chasing $20 consumers. 70 to 75% of that massive revenue comes from API and enterprise deals. They launched a product called Claude Code that rocketed from zero to an $8 billion run rate in just a single year, simply because developers use it to generate massive blocks of code, and they pay by the token. Anthropic basically flipped OpenAI's consumer-heavy model completely on its head, proving that infrastructure and developer tools are where the truly astronomical numbers are hiding. But hold on, because even Anthropic's B2B success totally pales in comparison to the deepest layer of the AI economy, the hardware layer. Have you ever heard that old saying about the gold rush? The people who actually got rich weren't usually the miners. They were the folks selling the picks and shovels. In the AI gold rush, the companies selling the physical infrastructure, the cloud computing, and the microchips, they profit enormously, regardless of whether OpenAI, Anthropic, or Google actually wins the software race. Just look at NVIDIA. They are absolutely crushing the frontier AI labs. In fiscal year 2024, NVIDIA's data center revenue blew past $100 billion, pulling in gross margins over 70%. They achieved an insane 80 to 90% market share in AI accelerators. Why? Because they spent years building a software ecosystem called CUDA that developers are now completely locked into. If you want to train a massive new AI model today, you almost certainly have to buy NVIDIA's highly specialized, incredibly expensive chips to do it. They're the ones capturing the real undisputed wealth of this technological revolution. Okay, before we go any further, I want you to pause for a second and answer this for me down in the comments. Are you surprised to learn that despite pulling in billions and billions of dollars in revenue, the biggest names in AI software are still deeply unprofitable? I know, it sounds impossible, right? Let me know your thoughts down there because the real plot twist of this whole explainer is coming up right now. Section 3, the uncomfortable truth. Because this brings us to the harsh reality hiding behind all the massive hype and revenue milestones we just looked at. The core issue threatening the entire software side of this industry is compute costs. This is the massive, unavoidable financial expense of buying that NVIDIA hardware, renting out cloud servers, and using vast amounts of electricity just to train and operate these AI models. And here's the paradox of the whole thing. AI companies actually make a pretty decent 30% gross margin when they answer your prompts, but the upfront cost of building the supercomputers required to train the next smarter generation of AI, that eats every single penny of that profit and then some. $115 billion. That terrifying figure is OpenAI's projected cash burn through 2029. It is a stark, unavoidable reminder that this industry is spending money way faster than it can print it. And Anthropic? They face the exact same reality, having committed over $80 billion to cloud infrastructure costs over the next several years. Basically, they're banking on the idea that they can grow their revenue so massively that eventually those training costs will look small by comparison. But right now, it's a high-stakes race for survival, funded entirely by billions in venture capital. Section 4. Why it matters to you. Okay, you might be thinking, well, that's fascinating financial drama, but how does a multi-billion-dollar cash burn actually affect the tools I rely on every single day? Well, as this shows, the intense pressure to finally become profitable means you're absolutely going to feel the impact. First off, you should probably expect your monthly AI bills to go up, or for usage limits on those $20 plans to get a lot stricter. Second, the sheer cost of training these models means smaller, indie developers simply can't afford the hardware. That means less competition and fewer choices for you in the long run. And lastly, because enterprise contracts are so incredibly lucrative, you can expect the big labs to prioritize building features for Fortune 500 companies rather than cool new tools for you and me. Ultimately, the future quality, capability, and cost of your digital assistant isn't going to be dictated by what consumers want. It's entirely dependent on which lab can survive their own server bills today. We are literally living through an era where rapid technological innovation is running headfirst into the brutal reality of physical infrastructure costs. Which leaves us with a massive dilemma about the future of the technology we're all becoming entirely dependent on. Will agile, open-source models eventually become efficient enough to disrupt this wildly expensive business model? Or will the infrastructure giants, the hardware makers and cloud providers, eventually just own the entire AI ecosystem because they are the only ones actually turning a profit? It's a huge question to think about. Let me know what side you're on down below. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it changed how you view the AI economy. Please hit that like button, subscribe to NextGen AI Tech so you don't miss any of our future breakdowns, and I will see you in the next one.